I had to wait over 12 hours to record this. By the way, I'm not going into voiceovers. This is what my voice sounds like after going to a football game. Scary Alvarez is back. Please drop me a like and a subscription if you want to keep me on the air, or you hate Lake Fickle. Either way. So, I'm back in Madison last night. Attended the game. Look, I didn't have particularly high hopes that Wisconsin was going to win the game versus Iowa. But I expected a fight. And I've recently commented on my position on Coach Fickle. And it transitioned like a zombie fairly recently from wait and see, give the guy more of a chance, blah, 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 to I've seen enough. But it had not gotten to the point where I was prepared to say he has quit on the team and he needs to be fired because keeping him in the position that he is in now can do further damage to the program, which is, frankly, that's a pretty high bar. Because with a coaching stable full of definite non-interim coaches who 100% will not get the job, there's no one on the staff who would even have a prayer at getting the Wisconsin job after Luke Fickle's fired. But where I am right now is the quit that I saw and the 100% utter lack of ride or die for, I would say, roughly 75% of the players on the team yesterday. That Wisconsin is shockingly hurting itself by continuing to employ him for the rest of the season. I don't think too many UCLA fans, when they fired their coach, I think it's 4 weeks ago, were thinking, oh, that interim guy we're going to elevate is definitely going to be the Bruins guy for the future. But I'll be damned if the UCLA Bruins aren't showing some fight. There is not one iota more talent on the UCLA Bruins team with the interim coach than there was before. But they're guys who are so happy to see Sean Foster gone that they're tapping into potential that wasn't there. They're finding gear that wasn't there. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen to Wisconsin if they elevated, the offensive coordinator or Trussell or whoever to head coach. But the debacle that I witnessed in Camp Randall, the joy that I saw on the Iowa fans' faces, the glee with which those players from in white and yellow were jumping around at the end of the third quarter, the pure and utter despair that I saw on the faces of Wisconsin fans. I got into this last week. Despair may be the wrong word. It was kind of a giggling indifference, not giggling in a happy way, but kind of like FML paid a bunch of money to come here. And I witnessed this effort from terrible, unprepared plays. Yes, the first drive game script was fine. A good high school coach could do that. And I've been a big Jeff Grimes defender. And I know he's playing under the heel of not having a starting quarterback again. We've been through this. But that offense was so putrid. A couple of those Hunter Simmons throws were more than a couple throws were so bad. I'm not trying to. This isn't the Hunter Simmons dish show. I'm just telling you, man. Guys, the guys in FCS quarterback starting in the Big Ten. That's where we are. The missed assignments, the missed blocks, there's a hole and you can't hit the hole. Just holy crap. The defense, not much better, kids. And it's not so much that a mid offense looked really good against them, which is bad enough. It had to have been more than a handful of plays that I saw where a guy could have made a hit or a tackle and they pulled up or they missed it. And they didn't miss it because they couldn't read the play. They missed it because they didn't want to have contact. Christian Allegro after the game, probably the defense's best player. This is a high motor kid. This is not a you got to motivate him kind of guy. This is a really talented player who I think was in the game last night. I don't think he was one of those guys who was pulling the blame. He said we don't have an identity. There is no more damning statement that a player could make about the status of a head coach 2.5 years into a tenure than we do not have an identity. He might as well have said, fire Luke Fickell, because he's terrible and has lost his team or never had the team. One or the other. I respect the fact that he did not say that, but he said the functional equivalent of that. We do not have an identity. This team does not have an identity. This team does not have a prayer. And again, all I can do, and I feel like I was far from the only one who was fooled by this. So the majority of Wisconsin fans were fooled. But I have a microphone and a little bit of a unique position relative to some of you, and whether it's social media or whether it is the podcast, me sticking with Fickell when it should have been obvious to me that he wouldn't do it. I apologize. I don't know what more to say. I mean, I'm but a human being behind a microphone, trying my best to get it right. And wow, I missed this one. I just missed it. I don't know. I mean, trust me, I've had arguments with myself about how I could let this happen. But again, there are better folks than I am as far as their knowledge, their dedication to the program, their talent in doing what they're doing with talking to y'all, and they missed it too. So I mean, I'm not losing sleep at night over it, but I do feel kind of retroactively embarrassed by some of the positions I took. But I am but human. But getting back to the underlying theme of this program, and I'm going to wrap this up soon. I got to go and make my voice higher somehow. I punch myself in the nuts again, like I felt like it happened last night watching the game. Fickell has to go. I don't care about who hired him. I don't care about who's mad about fans booing. We're not going to hear that again. I'm telling you that. We're not going to hear it again. I heard the fans booing last night. There's not going to be any godfathers coming out saying don't do it. But I care enough about the kids in that locker room that I cannot watch them be led, LOL, led, in quotations, one more game by someone who has quit on them. The body language, the coaching, taking the headset off before, like, with minutes left in the game, yes, it was a blowout. Yes, you were not going to go back with 37 points. But Iowa hit the over alone. It was a helpless and petrified and embarrassed and eventually indifferent Wisconsin fan base watching that game last night in a beautiful stadium, in a great environment, what should have been a great environment, in a night game against a rival who I want to say they're ripe for picking. I mean, the quarterback was barely functional and he played pretty well, Gronowski. The chips were there for a good game, for a fun night, for these people who laid $500 out to come support this team. We owe it to the fans. We owe it to the boosters. We owe it to the kids inside that locker room. And I know there's a lot of recruits out there who might decommit the day after it happens. I don't give an F. I mean, I wish these kids all the best, and I totally understand. We have people pleading with Amari Latimer who wore Ohio State gear in his game, and I'm not mad at the kid. Pleading with him to stay at Wisconsin. Can you look that kid in the eye and say he should? I can't. What are we doing here? Go be happy somewhere. Luke Fickell is an unmitigated disaster who has quit in his program. He needs to be fired immediately. And I don't care what the implications are. I don't care where the money has to come from. Believe me, if you say we're going to fire Fickell and we're going to buy him out, the boosters, there's going to be boosters who are going to come out of the woodwork there, who have been kind of leaning back, not wanting to give money, saying, okay, yeah, there's a use for my money I can see. But as I'm almost ironically jumping around with my 2-inch vertical about 9 o'clock last night, I'm doing it with such an ache in my heart. It was almost like surreal. It almost felt ironic. It should have been a great moment. It's been a little bit since I've been there, and I was looking so forward to this. As it wasn't like I was going to be in the student section doing it, but it was a winsome jump around, which is the worst kind of jump around. And halfway through that fourth quarter, that was a stadium full of celebrating Iowa fans, most of whom, by the way, were taken down a couple notches later in the night when the Milwaukee Brewers beat the Cubs. Apparently, that's their team since they're AAA team. That's a AAA state, guys. Iowa is a AAA state, and hopefully those fans, who are, by the way, a really, really solid group of fans. I'm sort of joking, but it was nice to see the Brewers come through. But anyway, to loop back, if there is any respect for the Wisconsin fans, the Wisconsin players, the Wisconsin boosters, Luke Fickell needs to be terminated immediately from this coaching spot he's in. Luke Fickell needs to be fired immediately to send a message that we give an F. I'm so angry about where we are. And it's just hang in there, Badgers. There'll be better days. And I don't mean better days like we're going to beat Ohio State or Oregon. We're going to get absolutely jackknifed, destroyed, bludgeoned, eviscerated by those teams. Indiana at Bloomington. Are you kidding me? To be a second or third stringer on the Hoosiers when the Wisconsin's coming to town, mom and dad, get to that stadium because I'm playing. I'm probably going to get a sack or a touchdown. These guys aren't even seeing the field, but the Hoosiers are going to be making big plays. So it's not going to get better in that sense. But rock bottom is here, guys. It's not going to get way. I suppose you could lose by 20 in Minnesota, but by then it's not going to matter anyway. But it's not going to get worse than a 37-0 loss against an unranked, probably 7-5 kind of, maybe 8-4 kind of Iowa Hawkeyes team at home. So getting bewilderedly destroyed by the Buckeyes next week, that's not going to feel nearly as bad as what happened last night. Scary Alvarez is out.